Radhe everybody. Today we will go through something that was discussed in Swami Premanand Ji Maharaj satsang today. There are two videos for today, and I'm going to link the one that I'm talking about in the description below. Now, in this video, lot of information was passed on. Like there was lot of tips and tools for a sadhak, a practitioner, a beginner in spiritual path. And the one that actually really stood out for me, or the one that I wanted to take down and mull over, is what I'm going to share with you. He talks in the later part of the video about Chintan. Chinta is worry and Chintan is thinking. Translated loosely in thinking, Chintan is a Hindi word, a Sanskrit word, and many other languages in India. Chintan is thinking. But it's not the usual thinking. It's more like a prolonged thinking which leads to action. Now, how is it different from regular thinking? It's always at the back of your mind. It's almost gnawing at you. And that's why worry is called Chinta, because worry is something that's just taking you or your presence away. And that kind of Chintan is most likely to take us either forward or it may drown us in the spiritual path. So he gives you an example. He gives us an example of what kind of Chintan, what kind of effect Chintan has on a person. He says, suppose you invite somebody and you give them a news which is devastating. Something like your son has gotten into an accident or something like that, and then you feed them, and then you put salt in a sweet dish and sweet in a savory dish. He says, if you had to say, just eat this and then you go meet your son because this has happened. His Chintan has already gone towards his son and he's not present anymore. So he wouldn't even realize there is salt in the sweet dish you served, and he wouldn't even realize what you served, right? So what has happened here is his Chintan, which is a prolonged deep thinking, has already transferred towards his son, and he's already forgotten his being here. He's not being anymore. And if he says, if the same Chintan is directed towards Sri Hari, Bhagavan, then how much beneficial it would be, because our Chintan usually is always revolving around worldly things. To explain this further, he is quoting two slokas from Bhagavad Gita in this satsang, 262 and 263, which is Dhyayate Vishayan Pumsaha Sangasteshu Upajayate Sangan Sanjayate Kama Kama Krodho Vijayate Krodad Bhavati Sammohat Smriti Vibramaha Smriti Brumshad Buddhinasho Pranashyati. So the man dwelling on sense objects develops attachment for them. From attachment springs up desire, and from desire, unfulfilled, ensure anger, and then from anger arises infatuation, from infatuation confusion of memory, from confusion of memory loss of reason, and from loss of reason one goes to complete ruin. So what Chintan can do, and even in self-help books we do see that where you think, whatever you think about, you become that and all that, but this is more towards spiritual path. So Bhagwan is explaining here how progressively Chintan, when it is associated with worldly objects, may take us down. By worldly objects, now we cannot associate this with, listen, if I'm not thinking about my son who has to be picked up at 3, if I'm not thinking about my father-in-law who needs help and he's sick, if I'm not thinking about being in the office at 8, what am I going to do? I cannot live my life without Chintan on worldly objects. Now, but that's not the kind of Chintan we are speaking here. Those are all normal thinking that leads to action of daily life, and those are, let's say, leading you to normal karma, which is like more of a responsible kind of thinking. It's not prolonged. You're not going to be thinking about being in the office at 8 for more than 5 hours. Are you thinking about it, sleeping, and next day getting up with that same thought about being there at 8 or picking your son up at 3? No, that's not gnawing at you. That's not behind your mind. Unless, of course, there is a problem at work, and then that becomes your problem, and then you're thinking about how you don't like getting to work. That will be raga dvesha. That's a different segment altogether. But here we are talking about prolonged kind of thinking about sense objects, especially worldly objects that are taking us away from Bhagwan's thoughts. And once we start to Vishayan Pumsah Dhyayato, Chintan becomes Dhyan, because whatever we think maximum potency, like we give it more and more magnitude, and it becomes our background of our mind, that becomes dhyan. So that's how dhyan is done. The more and more you think of Lord, the more and more you think of the supreme consciousness, dhyanam is done. That is, the background of your mind becomes that you're always thinking of Bhagwan, and that's how dhyana is done. So instead of that, if your prolonged thinking is associated with the worldly objects, then what happens is of course you're attached to them, and then if you don't get them, suppose you're thinking about the most recent gadget that is very expensive, every day it's gnawing at you, you want to get it, you want to use it, and then you're not able to afford it, so you're getting frustrated. That becomes anger, and the anger becomes moha, which is sammoha, which is like deluded kind of state of being. And then confusion of memory, smriti bhrumsat. Memory here is not actual memory. It's not like you're forgetting thing. It's more like you are not able to think straight. Confusion. And then because of that confusion, you have no reasoning at all, because that moha has become too much. You're almost wanting to do meaningless things to handle your anger and the desire that brought you that anger, and then complete ruin happens. And this is why the same thing will be all positive when we direct our chintan towards Sri Hari. And here I've taken some notes and highlighted some time, because it's all going away. This thing has almost smeared and stuff. So when some hindrance appears in the fulfillment of this desire, he develops hatred for the cause of this hindrance, and the hatred is transformed into anger. So first you think of a sense object, you're desiring it, it's becoming background of your mind. Every day you sleep with that thought, get up with that same thought, and then you're not able to achieve that. It's already turned into anger, and this anger is going to take you towards destruction. So I said, man dwelling on sense objects, habitual thought pattern, no spiritual practice, then mind goes to samsara. Only one can be in mind, dwelling on sense objects, desire, hindrance, anger, moha, infatuation, smriti bhrama, loss of memory, and then complete ruin. So this is what happens. I highlighted complete ruin, and he's thus soon degraded from his previous state of existence and is thrown after death into wombs of various subhuman species or into the infernal regions. This is about how you get caught into that cycle of birth and death, going through this path. Whereas if you direct that same chintan towards Sri Hari, that's going to cause all good things to happen. Slowly the karma is being burnt, and then consequently you come out of the cycle of death and birth. That was Sara, I'm sure, gist of what Prabhuji was talking about, Guruji was talking about. And then how would one turn chintan around? So if you don't want to go that path, how can one stay on the path? He recommends Nama Japa. He always recommends Nama Japa. Nama Japa is the easiest. If you have a mantra, yes, Mantra Japa. And Nama Japa can be done all the time. Mantra Japa, there are certain rules for mantras, because mantras have bijas, or the seed sound. These have to be chanted only when you are in a certain state of mind, and your body and mind and your chitta, everything has to be pure. So Namajapa, Kirtan, discussing glories, and Shastra Swadhyaya, studying the Gita, studying the Bhagavatam, studying scriptures, and satsang. So that's why, Bhagavan elsewhere says, Ananya Chintayanto Mama. Whoever has got this chinta completely directed towards me, I take care of these people. So I can take care of these atmas. I take them out of this cycle. So these things can keep us associated, keep our chintan associated with Bhagwan all the time. And as far as studying goes, studying is one method where you can keep the chintan around God. And studying and everything else stated here, Namajapa and everything, does need motivation. We are unable to be there, right? We are not able to keep our chintan in the feet of Bhagwan. So it always goes back to samsara. And in another satsang, he says, just like water just flows towards lower areas, mind has this tendency to just flow towards anything that's just very shiny. So consistent practice of Namajapa actually is very, very helpful in Kali Yuga for the minds and the kind of mind we have. This is now scroll century, I should say. We keep on scrolling. We're not happy with anything. We keep on watching things and just filling our chitta, which becomes chintan later. Chitta is the place of birth for all thoughts. We keep feeding it a lot of things. Instead, just feed it one thing, right? That's what he says, that if you are able to do that, whether it in the beginning mind may still wander, and you keep bringing it back to the nama whenever you can, being very gentle with ourselves, because if we are frustrated, we're going to totally leave it. So we have to keep bringing back our mind to the nama, and nama alone will take us through. And along with nama, having satsangs and associating with people who are already doing this, or if we are lucky, we go to a guru or somebody that's that's close to us, like in an ISKCON temple or whichever temple. And it's so convenient now that we are able to listen to satsangs on YouTube. There are so many swamis on YouTube in all good lineage. They're sharing stuff which is satsang. You just switch it on, sit there, you listen to them, it's satsang. So we are able to have that. Or it's best thing is to find people who are like-minded and start doing Shastra Swadhyaya, Nama Sankirtana. These things will always keep our mind close to Bhagwan. So that will prevent us from going to this route. 262 and 263 talks about how mind can take us completely downward. So Bhagwan also talks about how to stay away from it later, but these are the two slokas he was quoting in today's satsang, and I thought that would be our subject matter of the study today. I hope you like this video, and I will meet you back with more. Radhe Radhe. Hoping your study is going very well. All of you are studying the Gita, Bhagavatam and scriptures, and finding success with it. I'm linking the satsangs link underneath, and if you want to listen to it, it's in Hindi. Go ahead and listen to it and derive inspiration. Swami Premananji Maharaj is a great inspiration, motivation for us whenever we feel down and we're unable to keep up. Many of them have said they've made beautiful, wonderful changes and turnarounds. Some people have shared that they thought they were just doomed and there's no other go for them, and then they turned their life around this and gotten into spiritual path and found success. So I'll link the video below. Hoping everybody is doing well. and I will meet you soon. Radhe Radhe.